Welcome to the High Voltage Light Electric Vehicle channel. This video is going to look at the bike that I'll be using with the CYC Photon motor. It's also the bike that I was using with my Gen 1 CYC X1 Pro kit. So it's a good time as well to have a look at that too. I'm really looking forward to seeing how far CYC has come in terms of parts and professionalism since the first generation of kits were launched. This is the bike that I'm going to be using for it. It's a 2012 Salsa Vaya, which has served me faithfully for many years, both as a regular bike and then also with the X1 motor. Some modifications that I did do on the bike were to switch to some suspension forks at the front and also put on these flat bars because originally the bike came with drop bars. It's also got some Shimano XT brakes because originally it was mechanical brakes, which don't really cut the mustard for e-bike related stuff. It's a really strong frame with really nice stable geometry, and even when I was going past 80 kilometers an hour with the X1, it still felt really nice and stable on the road, and the same qualities I think are going to suit the Photon motor really well as well. I've got a few parts ready for the conversion. I've got these nice new blue pedals, so thanks to Ryan for the suggestion there. And I've also, for the first time ever, I've got a phone mount up here, which I'm going to be using with the CYC phone app because I want to see how that works and I want to see the kind of data that it feeds back, especially in terms of motor temperatures and things like that on hill climbs and over the longer distances. So I thought as well for this video, seeing as I was taking the X1 off anyway, I thought we'd have a closer look at some of the components here and see how they've held up on the bike. Because newer people to the channel probably haven't seen the Gen 1 stuff at all. So we'll take a look at these parts and I'll show you those. So the motor itself has not really changed that much. Like, it's still mostly the same rotor, the same stator. It's held up reasonably well on the bike. I did notice, slightly alarmed to see that 3 of the teeth were missing on the hardened steel gear. Apparently there was an issue with the early batches of these. I suspect total failure was not that far away, but it was still running with 3 missing teeth, and I hadn't noticed any real difference in the performance of it. But yeah, the motor itself is more or less the same with the later generations. This part here is the original drive side, and that's the free wheel in there, and it's held up pretty well. I can't see any real issues with degradation of the teeth or anything. The narrow wide still works reasonably well. There's not really any play or looseness in here, which you can sometimes get. So seems, God, I'm getting filthy here. That seems pretty good still. The 219 chain, it's still tensioned in this way. But there are now considerable improvements in the actual mechanism. This originally used to just brace itself on the edge of this chain cover. The newer ones, or the latest version, has sort of an aluminum casing that protects the whole thing, and there's a lot more material for this to tension against and to operate against. The wheel itself seems to be fine. This seems to have lasted really quite well. The bottom bracket, I don't know. Maybe I got a duff one, but it feels pretty horrible to turn this now. It's not smooth at all, and I never really did that much pedal assist riding with this bike for reasons that you'll see in a minute. But yeah, this is not particularly smooth. In terms of pedal assist, this is actually the original pedal assist unit, and it's originally, when the X1 was brought out, it used cadence-based pads as opposed to the newer torque-based system. So you have like 3 parts here. So you have a magnet ring here, and you have the casing. And the way this works is that the casing slots onto the shaft here, and then the magnet goes over the top. And originally there was like a sticky ring, like a tape ring in the middle of this. So that drops on over the top of that. And the idea was that the tape ring stuck to the inside here. And then when you turn the cranks, it would spin the magnet ring inside and take it past this sensor here. And the whole thing came in a relatively sealed unit like this. But the problem was putting it on was completely blind, and the ring would get mushed, or it would get cracked, or it just wouldn't lock on, and you would have it jammed inside and this spinning round and round and then not activating the pedal assist. And yeah, people that have the new torque-based stuff, you have no idea how lucky you are not to use one of these things. The other interesting part about the Gen 1 stuff is the original stock controller. And for me, the failure of this was, this one still works, but the failure of this overall was one of the biggest disappointments, really. And still is in a way, because I really like the design of this unit, and I think it fits much better with the aesthetics of the overall motor than the new one does. It's certainly easier to install than the newer X6 controller. It just has the 4 bolts here, 4 bolts there, 4 bolts in total, and then it just bolts straight in. And it has this, it fits flush with the motor, whereas the newer ones tend to stick out. So, from design perspective, it was good. It just didn't function, especially at high voltages. It was just plagued with problems, and eventually CYC ditched this and went to ASI, and there were more problems, and then they have their own X6, which is where we are currently, and apparently that's much better than the previous solutions. So that's about it for this video. I'm really looking forward to getting the Photon on this bike and seeing how the new vest-based stuff works. It's definitely an exciting time for CYC, and I'm looking forward to seeing how far they've developed as a company in terms of professionalism, in terms of packaging, in terms of how everything's delivered, because it's quite a leap for me to go from Gen 1 all the way through now to the 3rd generation of things. I'm not actually quite sure what to do with all this stuff, because there is actually a fully functional Gen 1 controller system and package here. So I think I'm going to put it up to a vote, because I could just keep it as sort of an archive thing for looking at in the future, or I could also send it off to the EV Components Review channel and have it completely disassembled. I'm kind of interested to see some ideas as to what it was about this that meant that it had so many problems. I'm not sure if it can be, taken apart and still be had working, but it would be interesting to see inside of it and why there might have been issues with it. So I'm going to put that for a vote on the channel, and if you vote for it, I will send it off to EV Components Review. I'll send a motor off as well and see if we can get it all disassembled and tested and see what's thought. Anyway, thank you for watching the channel. Big shout out to everybody that's supporting. Really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Cheers.